I talked with millnemba. If you'd like to pick up any of the cards that you see in today's video, then I have to point you guys onto 3-Mana Inc., the best place in Canada to get your DBS and Digimon sealed and single products. Links will be down in the description. Hey guys, Espira, and we topped the regional. This weekend were the first Dragon Ball Super regionals to come back. They were webcam regionals, regular best of ones, not pre-side, I think. And for those guys who know me or have been listening to me talk for a while, I do think what they're doing is they're waiting for the test at DBS Fest before deciding if it's the right move to go for regionals. So while I know that there's still some people who say like, hey, why are we still doing best of ones? I actually, while it is a shame that Fest hasn't happened earlier so that they could apply the changes that I think everyone in the community knows to be better to these regionals, I still like the fact that they're testing something before just imposing it on the community. Even though I think universally we all agree it's probably the right choice for the game in the future, I do like the fact that they're going about with this in a more strategic way than just throwing it out. So I actually do appreciate it, even though it impacts these first couple of regionals. But like I said, I ended up finishing 10th in the 256-man core regional with Blue Yellow millnemba. Of course, if you guys only care about the deck, here it is. However, if you guys want to understand my choices or how we came up to this, then that's what the video will be. And then we'll go over through our matchups and kind of like how we felt throughout the tournament. So to kick us off, blue yellow. Why blue yellow? I just like blue yellow. Like, you could play mono blue, and there was also a mono blue variant that saw success finishing in 7th, I believe, the Carta Magica tournament on Saturday. So Mill is in a really good position in the sense that there's a lot of like go long, go deep, draw deep decks. U7, you have the black decks, you have Shenron, which like you can kind of control the tempo and just really mill them out easily. So in general, the meta is just really well poised in a way for you to be able to push out these longer games where you can mill your opponent out. Typically in older formats, there have been tournaments where I've been able to actually win a couple of games by outright killing my opponent as opposed to just milling them out. But no, this tournament, every single win was a mill out, putting me at a 6-2 record with having 2 amazing tiebreakers that pushed me into the 10th spot. The biggest reason, obviously, to play blue yellow is Zamasu. It's an incredible card. Deals with boss monsters because it's an auto, so unless it has barrier, then you're pretty much just getting anything. It gets a draw. It's a 10k combo, which is relevant because they'll just stick on board, and whenever you need the extra defense, it's there. And if you, for some reason, your opponent plays a 4-drop or less, you're able to bounce it back into that. So incredibly useful. The entire reason to be running blue yellow, in my opinion. I'll go over the other blue yellow cards before touching on Goku Black. Of course, we've got Bojack, block, rest a card, mills one, so you're effectively stopping 2 attacks. You're adding an extra mill. Instant speed mill is super important just because your opponent's going to do the math based on your leader swings, and every time you're able to chip in, sometimes you can just straight up win a game on your opponent's turn by them having that one last card and you being able to rival Bojack. Of course, as far as our super combo goes, we run a 2-2 split of Zamasu and Vegeta, just incredibly solid all across the board. This allows for our rivals. Also, if our opponent missequences, we can tap down something. Typically, you don't always want to tap down the leader because you do want them to get that swing draw, but nevertheless, slows them down as well. And then Vegeta just to help us dig deep a little bit. So then we got Vegeta and Kaba, just some quick instant speed removal. It's not as good as Galactic Buster, that's for sure, but nevertheless, I mean, it's instant speed, it's a dual attacker, so it means you can help clean up board. It's just good to have depending on the deck your opponent is playing. Then to bring it back to the Goku Black. Goku Black, I didn't play a singular time this tournament. He was my turn 1 charge 90% of the time. It's just time. It's just tough. The way that this deck plays out, because we do run the Boo Unison, you play the Boo Unison on 4. On 5, you want to keep a Floodgate or some kind of interaction. Or maybe you need to make a play to deal with your opponent's board, or you want to start milling them out, which means paying 4 for it. So very rarely do you have the defensive timing to be able to go for this, and then everyone's running Secret Identity, which kind of makes this like a null play. So while I do think the card is strong, maybe run as a 1 or 2 of, but as a 3 of, it was just way too much, and I literally never played it. So that's something that I would substitute out. Besides that, which if we're gonna substitute out cards, I just max out on the Bojack. As far as our mill pieces goes, blue yellow, it is a little bit harder, whereas mono blue leans on turbo mill way more, and you can easily get turns where you mill 7, 8 plus cards. It's not exactly the case in blue yellow because you have more tempo oriented cards, which means you don't have as much space and timing to be able to actually do the mill stuff. So as far as mill goes, we have our big miller in the form of Agent Destruction. He's going to go for 3. We have Demon Sword, which mills for 2, as well as ends up popping a card, which can be useful. And then Reality Bender is only 1 of. You could even have him as a 2 of. It's just there's so many situations in which you have Zamasu on board that you don't always actually get the timing to be able to get him out. But I could see him bump him up to do just so you kind of get a bit of a spread in terms of when you're able to mill out your opponent. The big thing I will say though is that AJ Destruction is probably the worst one. While it does have more value across the board, it doesn't have deflect, which means there's a lot of things that hit it. So there are oftentimes you kind of play it and accomplish nothing with that. As far as the blue goes, Sensu being 4 of, self-explanatory. The meta is really well poised to have your leader be a 20k, so it helps. D Magic at 4, it's D Magic. You want as much energy as you can, especially when you're playing multicolor like blue yellow. We got Boo as a 4 of best. So there are some cards in here that bottom deck, and I will say I think for a lot of it, you could see not being able to bottom deck as an issue, or bottom decking as removal as an issue, because it slows down your mill turn. But generally, what you gain by being able to remove the tempo from your opponent by bottom decking 1 or 2 cards, even though it takes away technically kind of mill turn, means that you're able to actually push the game in longer length. So while you lose 1 turn of mill in terms of bottom decking a card or 2, you gain 2 to 3 turns of mill by being able to actually extend the game, which kind of is more important. And at the end of the day, the card's just incredibly solid. Let's see. Let's go over. We got Bojack. I run him as a 2 of, just kind of an off color. You only run 2 because you don't always have that much yellow, and if you do have yellow, you want to use it on your multicolors. But just having the extra instant speed mill is super relevant. And then you can 5k combo him away, or combo him and some other blue card to be able to rival as well. 4 dry apes, you could probably put this down to 3. There were often times when there were like multiple dry apes in my drop and I didn't have the energy to be able to use them. So 4 might have been a bit much, so we can just tone it down to 3. But again, additional draws. Janemba loves drawing, loves having a big hand so he can defend himself. 3 army reinforcement, absolutely fantastic. You guys already know blocker negates are amazing. It's just a shame that you can't combo these, but nevertheless, it's incredibly powerful. No reason not to run it. 2 Bardock Awakened Instincts. You're really only using this for extra filter. You don't really care about your drop 9 times out of, I'd say 8 times out of 10. Sparking D Magic comes up sometimes, or making sure you draw with your drives before you bother to Bardock. But at the end of the day, he's just, 1, can help with board clear by being an additional attacker. And then on top of that, he also draws you cards to be able to defend. He's really just there to filter cards out of your hand. Our Floodgate of choice is Ready to Rumble. Still, you have to be careful playing him. Again, there are cards that deal with a 20k coming on board, but nevertheless, his ability is really strong. And if your opponent tries to play the challenge where he just kind of, if he's not able to fight through, you effectively end the game for him, because the odds of them making a comeback off 1 or 2 energy is incredibly tough. And if you're able to play a second Ready to Rumble after they are already committed to fighting through a first one the turn beforehand, odds are the turn isn't going to go far. And that's how I actually won one of my games, by going Ready to Rumble back to back, and he just didn't have enough energy to be able to attack me. SCR of choice is Vermilion Sands, or a multicolor version of the deck. I even in mono blue, I think Vermilion Sands is the right choice, but it effectively beans you for every single color that you remove. For every color in your and your opponent's energy, you get to remove a thing off the board, ignoring barrier, and then your opponent then you get 10k for it. So it's incredibly versatile. We don't get the activate main, but that's fine. It's super, super useful and has flat out. I don't know if I've lost a game in which I've cast this card, so like it's still incredibly powerful. Heroic Prospect. I'm gonna be real, guys. I don't think we bother with Heroic Prospect. I included it just in case I run into the black matchup, and then maybe if I went first, I get like 2 turns of usability. But honestly, no. That they bottom deck 2 cards per attack, and then even then, it's not even all that live. By the time you're on turn 4 and have him live, if you want second, they're going to their 5th energy. Odds are almost everything they play will actually be able to get under this. So it's just not a great negate. It's not live enough. So while the Heroic Prospect was a test on my part, it is definitely just not it for this deck. So unless you go for a lower to the ground unison, like a hit unison or something like that, I don't see ourselves really wanting to play this. And then as far as the new inclusions go for Realm of the Gods, we have Realm of the Gods, Beerus Destroys. On your turn, you can bottom deck a card that has bigger energy than your opponent has, or on their turn, you draw a card and then you can bounce back a 2 cost or less. So incredibly powerful. Janemba's had always been a deck that needed to run max power Kamehameha. This is an alternative way of doing that with a bit more flexibility. You don't have the negate, but you do have the usability of being able to draw cards or remove stuff off the board. And the removal is really what's there for. And then finally, Vegeta, the Interceptor. Dual attack, counter, and then you're able to bottom deck 2 cards when he comes on board. So he's just dual attacker, means that he's pretty good at clearing boards. And just the timing is weird, but against yellow decks, it's actually really good. There are a lot of times when the counter timing actually comes up, but even then, he's just a pay 3 to bottom deck 2. And while sure, you're bottom decking 2, you're getting rid of a mill turn. At the end of the day, it is so incredibly efficient at removal that there's just no reason not to really run it. So like I said, in terms of the big changes I would make to the deck, Heroic Prospect is just to forget about it. And the Goku Black, I think we can replace for some other blue-yellow card. Because you do want a bit more blue-yellow, so make sure you can charge it turn 1, turn 2, the latest. But if we keep him, it's maybe as a 1 of, maybe as a 2 of, but I would really kind of substitute that. And then the rest is just ratios. Like a 3 apes as opposed to 4. Maybe bringing in, not another Ready to Rumble, but another Floodgate similar to it. Those are the biggest changes I would make to the deck. And then why this deck? Well, I wanted to play Red U7, so I guess we'll transition over to the bigger screen now that we're out of here. So I did want to play Red U7, but people around me are fiends, and none of the stores that I usually buy from actually had access to the cards whatsoever. So I figured, well, not only that, but I got home an hour before the tournament, which means I had about 10 minutes to make my deck, and then I hadn't slept for over 24 hours at that point, so I needed to take a nap before the tournament. So I got home, I spent 10 minutes, and honestly, when it comes to that, I just build a deck I know. So usually it's something like Soul Striker, it would be Invoker if I had it built, even though Invoker's not great, or it's like millnemba, and I can throw together a competent millnemba deck in 10 minutes. So I spent 10 minutes, I threw together blue-yellow cards I thought were sick, alongside with a couple of new inclusions from Realm of the Gods, and I shipped it. So that's how it went. And then I napped for 30 minutes, and then that was my tournament run. So I'm gonna be humble about it for the most part, but big props to me, like on no sleep and a deck that I hashed together. Yeah. And then it does help that I figured a while ago that millnemba would actually be a pretty decent pick going towards this meta. As far as my matchup goes, I'm not gonna go into a deep chat about it. But my matchups were Red U7. So the ones that I won were Red U7, Sin Shenron, Blue Yellow Soul Striker, SS4 Bardock, Blue Red Milk Cooler, and then I'm missing one. But then I lost to the winner of the tournament, Frank Newcomb, who was on 18 mil, and I lost to Legends, who was on Blue Yellow Golden Frieza. That game, I will say though, should have been a quote unquote free win for me. I milled out his Trunks, Unisons, I milled his SCR. Honestly, just some missequencing on my part. You can blame it to fatigue, no practice, or me just getting cocky. I don't know, but super winnable game on my point. So it's unfortunate we lost it, but at the end of the day, still made top 16. So I'm not stressing about too much because I don't think we were getting. Well, we might have gotten within the top 4 if we went X1, but it's okay. Anyways, and I can't remember the last game. So I guess the big question is is mill the big thing moving forward? I think mill is a viable strategy, especially in a format where games can go long like they do now, and the defensive options we have available allow us to be able to push into the long game, kind of like how they have at the moment. However, I will say that mill is one of those strategies that gets worse the more people are expecting it, especially since they're all blue oriented. It means that they're very hateable with a lot of bullets. There's a lot of different ways to hit on the deck. Hand destruction completely rips on Janemba really, really hard. So there are a lot of strategies that if people decide to just shift into or be ready for the matchup, the worse it gets. So do I think mill can get a top placement in future events? Probably, I would imagine the next regionals are in April. I don't think it's impossible. I think you can definitely get there. But the fact that we're going to most likely be pivoting into a best of one pre-sided world once Fest is over means that it is highly unlikely that Janemba is going to be, mill in general, but Janemba very specifically is going to be able to keep doing well as long as it's still on people's radar. So I think it's going to be one of those things where, as usual with this deck, it comes in and it comes out, and you're just going to have to gauge based on that. With that said, guys, that was my deck profile. That was my quick chat about the matchups and kind of what I quick chat about the matchups. Sin Shenron is kind of free. U7, if you're playing against mill guys, just don't burst. Just let Janemba do the work for you and go from there. Soul Striker, we're able to go to the late game and I just milled him out. Draws too much. And then the other matchups were just grindy. Managed to mitigate the board, and I got a little bit lucky on some of the matches to be able to find the right cards when I need them to be able to win the game. So but yeah, so that was it for this deck profile. Of course, regional season's back up, which means I'm super excited because that means that we get more regional streams. So if you guys want to watch me play in these tournaments or even want to watch the recap of the last tournament, I'll think about uploading it on YouTube. We'll see. I mean, I might. Links to my Twitch is down in the description, guys. You guys can check out the VODs there if you guys want to see the gameplay, or if you guys want to watch me live. That said, if you guys like the video, give it a thumbs up. If you dislike it, give it a thumbs down. If you guys want to recommend, now that I have my invite to nationals, I don't need to take regional seriously anymore. So if you guys have a deck recommendation that you guys would want to see me take to a regional, whether it's janky, serious, or whatnot, just let me know in the comments below. And with that said, I'll catch you guys on the next one.